Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session on personal statements. My name is Omer Awan. I'm the Associate Vice Chair of Education. Before I begin, please subscribe to this channel. Please support what we're doing so that we can help everyone ace the EROS applications and let free medical knowledge go viral. So I want to talk to you about the personal statement. I think it's a really challenging topic. A lot of my mentees have asked me advice on what to do, what not to do, and I want to demystify a lot of these concepts, and the Hunt's talking about personal statements, I think, is very key. And I want to start by, before I talk about the 5 mistakes, just talk generally about the personal statement. And I want you guys to all relax. Don't put too much pressure on yourself when you're writing these, because if you do, it often doesn't come out very well, right? So just take it easy, take a deep breath, do the best you can, and I can assure you that your personal statement will be just fine. Quite frankly, when you write your personal statement, you're not really gonna completely wow. It's very hard to wow a PD when you're writing a personal statement, right? So there's very few. If I'm reading 1,000 personal statements, maybe 1 or 2 of them, I'll be like, oh my God, this was amazing. I have to invite this person for an interview, right? The vast majority of them, 900, 950, 970 of them are going to be average to above average, and they'll be just fine. And that's where you kind of want to be, right? You don't also want to be in the 4 or 5 which are terrible, and it'll preclude you from even getting an interview, right? So you don't want to have it so bad that PDs are not going to interview you because of your personal statement. You don't want that as well. But in general, it is important to have a nice, polished personal statement that is clear, articulate, 1 page, very brief, and gets the point across in a nice way, showing why you chose the specialty and why whatever it is your vocation, right? Because a weak personal statement can really be a red flag, right? If there's grammatical errors, it doesn't flow well, it's not polished, that can preclude you from getting an interview, and that's certainly not what you want to do, right? You should really see the personal statement as an opportunity to highlight the things that you want to highlight, right? You have full control of what you want to tell the PD. The dean's letter is written by the deans, right? Your CV is just your accomplishments. Your USMLE is your USMLE score. But in your personal statement, you can really tell whatever you want about yourself that you want PDs to know. It's a very special opportunity for you to highlight whatever you want, and that's how you should see it as. That you should be inspired by that ability to say what you want to say in a personal statement. Now let's go over the 5 mistakes that I've seen when I read personal statements and I give advice. Number 1, it's not personal enough, right? It's a personal statement. So your reasons for pursuing a specialty are well explained. Let's say you're going into general surgery. You talk about the high you get when you're, in the operating room. You absolutely love that. You have passion for that. You understand the specialty. You have insights into the workload, the long hours. All that is in there, but there's nothing personal about it, right? You haven't tied any of that to your own experiences, to your own emotions, right? The personal aspect is key. You have to tie it into the experiences that you've had that have shaped you or molded you to want to pursue general surgery, right? So the tip here is that relate all of those, relate your personal experiences, your emotions, and tie them in to all those things and all those reasons why you're pursuing a specific specialty. If you can do that, you won't make this mistake. Now, mistake number 2 is the exact opposite. So your reasons for pursuing a specific specialty are not well thought out, right? So, you may have personal experiences, but you haven't conveyed to the PD that why it is that you're pursuing dermatology or ophthalmology, right? So, after reading a personal statement, I or the PD should be convinced that you belong in our specialty, right? It should be crystal clear. Did you adequately articulate why you're a good fit for family medicine or why you're a good fit for internal medicine, right? If someone has read it and they're not convinced, then it's not a strong personal statement. It's as simple as that, right? You should always ask yourself, why surgery and not medicine? Or why ophthalmology and not radiology? Why X and not Y, right? That has to be answered definitively. So, for example, if you say something like, I love ophthalmology because of, the hands-on experience in doing some minimally invasive procedures. I love the patient care, patient contact, and this is why I'm pursuing ophthalmology. Well, that's great, but you can see that in other specialties too. In radiology, you have minimally invasive procedures. We see patients, right? We do breast biopsies. So if that doesn't clarify why opto is your vocation, right? you have to really find, what's unique about the specialty and be able to articulate that in a nice way, right? So that's the key. People aren't precise enough in explaining why it is that the vocation they've chosen is really their vocation. Mistake number 3, and this may surprise some people, the tone of the personal statement is arrogant, okay? And, none of us want to think of ourselves as arrogant. And oftentimes this is unintentional, it's not intentional, right? But be very careful with your choice of words, right? Be very careful because that's all we have. That's all PDs have are what you're giving us, right? So, you should of course be confident, but don't come off with arrogance, right? Have pride in your accomplishments, but don't flaunt them. Medical students are some of the most accomplished people, and for good reason. You guys are very resilient. You guys have done amazing things, but say it in a way that is humble, right? The tip here is to show humility when citing your accomplishments, saying something like, I was humbled to have been considered as a Fulbright scholar, and I look forward to all the opportunities I can do to uplift others, or something like that. Change it in a way where you're showing your service to others, or you're doing something for other people, right? And have a sense of humility when you're doing it. Every one of you can do that, right? So be very careful. Sometimes when you don't do that, it comes off as arrogant, and then it can rub the PD the wrong way, right? So I see that very commonly, and oftentimes people aren't even aware that they're doing this. So this is an important mistake that I want all of you guys to kind of pay attention to when you're writing and crafting that one-page personal statement. Mistake number 4, focusing on negative energy, right? So this may surprise you guys as well, but I can't tell you how many times I see people talking about their weaknesses or negativity. You always want to stay positive in your personal statement, right? So if you're constantly feeding me negativity, what am I going to think about you, right? So you want to put yourselves in my shoes, or in the shoes of a recruiter. If you're hearing positivity, you're going to want to exude positivity back and reciprocate that back. If you're hearing negativity, you're going to be a little shaky about offering an interview, right? So always keep the tone positive. We make decisions based on what you give us. If you give us positivity, we give back positivity. If you give us negativity, we may give back negativity, right? So very important, right? So, if you're feeding us negative energy, would we want to meet you? It's just as simple as that. Even if you're meeting a friend, right? You don't want to meet a friend that has a lot of negative energy. So, why do that on your personal statement? Sometimes we feel that we have to talk about our weaknesses, but don't do that. If you've, didn't do well in your PEDS clerkship, the personal statement is not the time to explain that, right? If we want to hear about that, we will ask you about it during the interview. Believe me, we will all ask you about those things that we think are concerning. You don't need to offer that information. We have access to that, right? Now, the only exception to that would be like if it was something very bad that would preclude you from even getting an interview, like maybe failing the boards or something like that. Even then, I would proceed with caution, maybe talk to your mentors. But I think, maybe you can explain it, very briefly. But in general, you always want to keep the tone positive when you're doing this. The fifth mistake is it's too boring, right? We're human beings as well. We read thousands of personal statements. You want to keep it as interesting as possible to keep us glued to our seat and to read the personal statement with some level of enjoyment, right? So, you want to keep it as engaging as possible. Engage us, just like you're talking to us, just like you're giving a talk or a lecture, right? Those things are very important when you're, giving or writing a personal statement, extremely important, right? So the way you do this is by telling stories, right? Telling stories in your personal statements, relating it to something personal, maybe starting off with a shocking statement that draws my attention, right? All those things will make it more interesting. And the more interesting it is, the more likely I'm going to read it, the more likely I'm going to remember it, and the more likely I'm going to offer you an interview, right? It's as simple as that, right? So try for it not to be so monotonous. Try to separate yourself and make it unique to the best capability you possibly can. So that's all I got. If you follow those, I think it'll be a great personal statement. All of you guys will do amazing. Please let me know how I can help. Drop comments down in the comments. And if there's other videos you want me to do, please let me know. Thank you so much for your attention.